A night that shook the Russian capital. Moscow woke up to explosions, and this time the strikes were extremely close to the very heart of Russian power. According to autumn analysts, a long-range FP-1 type strike drone reached Moscow. And most importantly, it detonated in an explosion just 3 kilometers from the Russian Ministry of Defense building and roughly 6 kilometers from the Kremlin.
This is the first recorded presence of Ukrainian strike drones in the immediate vicinity of the Kremlin in a very long time.
Experts report that the drone could carry a warhead weighing up to 120 kilograms and is capable of covering a distance of up to 1,600 kilometers. Specialists emphasize that this is one of the deepest pinpoint attacks toward the Russian capital in a long time. There is panic in Russian public forums and social networks, explosions and footage of the aftermath. The Kremlin is in isolation mode. Putin has switched to a full bunker lifestyle. Constant fear of assassination, suspicion of his own inner circle, and total control at all levels. Secluded residences, canned food, pre-recorded speeches, and complete isolation even from his closest staff. And that's not all. Tension is brewing within the Russian elite. Arrests, suspicions of conspiracies, and the risk of internal conflict at the highest level. Former Defense Minister Shoigu and his inner circle are in the spotlight. What is really happening in Russia? Is it paranoia among the top officials or the beginning of a deep political crisis? All the details are coming up in just a moment. Don't miss it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Solomia Dolik, and here are the latest events. In Russia, there is an atmosphere of fear, suspicion, and possibly even conspiracy at the highest level. According to investigators, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has effectively switched to a state of complete isolation. And it seems that what he fears most now is not an external enemy, but his own inner circle. It is reported that since March of this year, Putin has been in a constant state of anxiety over a possible assassination attempt. Among his main fears are attacks, drones, and conspiracies within the Russian elite. And the Kremlin's response is unprecedented. According to Jorel, the Federal Protective Service has effectively shut Putin off from the outside world. The dictator no longer appears at his usual residences, neither in the Moscow suburbs nor in Valdai. Instead, he spends weeks in specially modernized bunkers, including in the Krasnodar region. And public appearances? It is claimed that these are so-called canned appearances, pre-recorded videos that are presented as current. The level of control within the system has also sharply increased. Double checks have been introduced in the administration. People who have access to Putin are forbidden from using smartphones. They are even prohibited from using public transportation. They are transported exclusively by special vehicles. But most notably, even the closest circle is now under total surveillance. Round-the-clock video surveillance has been installed in the homes of cooks, photographers, and security guards. In other words, every single step is literally monitored. In Moscow itself, they periodically shut off communications. And along the Moskva River, units to combat drones are being deployed. And one more telling fact. In 2026, Putin has not made even one single visit to military facilities. Although in 2025, he was still frequently seen demonstrating active presence on the front lines. What has changed? And here another internal factor appears. A name that is increasingly heard in this context. Sergei Shoigu. Despite the change in position, he retains influence over the military. And according to sources, the Kremlin is seriously afraid of a possible coup. The situation sharply escalated after the events of March 5th this year. At that time, Shoigu's former deputy Ruslan Tsalikov was detained. And this, according to analysts, became a signal. The informal security guarantees for the Russian elites no longer work. Moreover, it is not ruled out that Shoigu himself could be next. And this is already a direct risk of a power struggle within the Russian elite. And now the main question is, what is really happening in the Kremlin? Is it actually paranoia, or is it preparation for a real threat? If the previous information about bunkers, fear, and total control in the Kremlin looks like a sign of deep anxiety within the system, then new data indicate that Vladimir Putin's current challenges and complications may be more extensive and reach significantly further than just his inner circle. It seems that we are already talking about a loss of control over the country. According to Western media, Putin's approval rating in Russia has dropped to almost 66%. Thank you. And this is the lowest figure since the start of the full-scale war. Moreover, just since the beginning of this year, his rating has dropped by more than 12%. And most importantly, it's not just the numbers that are changing. The mood of society is changing. Russians are increasingly not just dissatisfied anymore. They are beginning to openly question the authority of the Kremlin. The reasons are obvious. Economic decline, the lack of tangible results in the war against Ukraine, which has already entered its 5th year. And the accumulated tension, which, according to the Russians themselves, could explode. And this signal is coming even from those who were previously hard to suspect of criticism. For example, pro-Kremlin influencer Victoria Bonya, who has 1 million followers, unexpectedly made a sharp statement. In a video that has garnered tens of millions of views, she directly addressed Putin.
The people are afraid, artists are afraid of you, governors are afraid.
And then it gets even harsher.
Do you know what the risk is? People will stop being afraid. They are being compressed like a spring, and one day that spring will snap.
And this already sounds like a direct warning about a possible social explosion. But this is not a lone voice. Singer and TV host Katarina Gordon has also been speaking out about growing discontent, particularly among women. Those who are seeing their businesses fail, can't cope with their mortgages, and are facing fewer opportunities for their children's future. This
will be the biggest split from the state.
Even the systemic opposition is starting to sound the alarm. The leader of the Russian communists, Gennady Zhuganov, warns that if the situation does not change, the country could face a new revolution. In fact, with the repetition of the events of 1917, and an even more alarming signal is coming from within the system itself. A former supporter of the war, the so-called Z-blogger Ilya Remeslo, has unexpectedly moved into open opposition and is making statements that until recently seemed impossible.
Putin's closest circle also secretly hates him.
Moreover, he has openly declared his political ambitions.
I want to become a representative of this mass of people, which numbers in the tens of millions.
He even challenged Putin himself, essentially calling for his arrest. Let us recall, after his first such statements, Ramislav was sent to a psychiatric hospital, which many regarded as repression in the style of the USSR. But he returned and continued his criticism. And now all of this is coming together into one alarming picture. The Kremlin hiding in bunkers, elites suspected of plotting, and a society that is gradually losing its fear. This is a total fiasco for Putin's regime. Even his own people are stripping him bare. The dictator has no one left to rely on. Betrayal is everywhere. Mega purges have begun in the corridors of power. And on top of that, the adoption of the sensational decision to cancel the parade. It seems Russia is really in a bind. Moscow has become a prime target. The propaganda machine is failing. Is it really time for Putin to start thinking about an evacuation plan from the country? All this coming up in a moment.
In the Russian city of Novоворonish, a record has been set. There, the newly appointed mayor lasted only 7 days in office as he was detained on suspicion of taking a bribe. Mayor Nedelka, that's the nickname the people of Novоворonish gave to Yuri Cherenkov, who knows very well that it's not just a penny that counts. A ruble counts too, and so do 160,000 rubles, which protect him from poverty. That's exactly the amount Cherenkov demanded from a commercial entity, the name of which the Russian investigators, they are not disclosing it. In return, Mayor Nedelka promised, for the bribe received, to facilitate the signing of government contracts as well as contracts related to construction oversight. The victory parade in Moscow may not take place for the first time in 30 years. A decision to cancel or postpone it may be made due to new Ukrainian missiles capable of reaching Moscow in 10 to 30 minutes. This was complained about to Russian propagandist Solovyov by his colleague, a Z-blogger. A day earlier, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, evasively responded to a question about the parade's cancellation by saying, "We are preparing to celebrate Victory Day." There have been no other official statements. In some cities, preparations for the parades have already begun, but there have been no such announcements from Moscow or St. Petersburg.
Today we are witnessing firsthand the gathering of the remaining surviving punishers, their supporters, and these attempts to rewrite history, to justify the brutal enemies and treacherous foes whose hands are stained with the blood of hundreds of thousands of innocent people. On
Sunday, a rehearsal for the parade formations was supposed to take place at the training ground, but it was cancelled. the military were told that they would return to their permanent stations until further notice. The reason for the cancellation, Tumano admitted, was Ukraine's long-range missiles, though he did not specify which particular models had frightened the Kremlin. Cruise missiles can reach Moscow in half an hour, while ballistic missiles can do so in 10 minutes. In Russian kindergartens and schools, they marked Attention, Pregnant Women's Day. The children had to listen to lectures about early, miraculous motherhood and spiritual harm, child-free, including from priests, as well as learn how to swaddle toys. In one of the schools, they even held a contest for the fastest swaddling of dolls, and kindergarten teachers praised little girls for seemingly already starting to prepare themselves to become mothers at the age of 5 years old. Such ruthless ideological nosedive. From grandmothers who are still giving birth to children who are still giving birth. Viktor Olevich, an expert on Russian propaganda shows, who regularly made statements about thank you. The Russophobic West fled from the Russian Federation after threats from the FSB. Olevich is an American of Odessa origin who moved to Russia. He is a leading expert at the so-called Center for Current Policy and a frequent guest on propaganda shows, which ultimately did not protect him from the warm embrace of the Russian special services. Because of this, Olevich was forced to run far away from the Russian world. And he wrote about this on his Telegram channel. He says that twice, in December and February, people came to him, FSB agents with threats. According to Olevich, it was all because he refused to obtain Russian citizenship. This is a very telling story for foreigners who support the Kremlin. And it's quite a different matter to talk on TV about a magnificent and glorious Russia and the decaying West. It's quite another to become a citizen of this wonderful Russia.
Extensive historical evidence shows that American sanctions alone hardly ever actually lead to a complete change of government regime. Because Iran, for example, has been under strict American sanctions since 1979. That is, for almost 40 years.
Despite the fact that for years Olevich talked on Russian TV about the terrible and supposedly weak America, guess who he's asking for help from now? Of course, from the US State Department. Watch more on the YouTube channel Fakti Live. We report news from Russia, not because we find it interesting. We document the state of the aggressor country, which is unable to solve even its most basic problems, but instead lectures everyone in the world on how to live. Serhiy Yeremenko, Yevhen Zazulya, the Vikna program on STB for the United News Marathon.
Russian reality is bursting at the seams. Fires, environmental problems, and growing tension. A wave of emotions and complaints is sweeping through the internet. It finally happened. Russians are begging to end the war and are turning against Putin. Propaganda unexpectedly has now started telling the truth. The moment of truth has arrived. Our forces managed to pave the enemy a road straight to hell. Ultimately, how are Russians living at this very moment? What are they saying, and what are they truly afraid of? We'll tell you more next.
An oil rain, soot in the air, black clouds. In the Russian city of Tuapse, oil refinery facilities have been burning for over a week following attacks by Ukrainian drones. I
wanted to live by the sea with my child. The sea is all covered with this fuel oil. Everything is polluted. You really don't know if you'll be able to make it out alive, or not.
The Kremlin doesn't see any problems, and local officials are simply urging people to stay home and not panic. The residents of Tuapse finally noticed the oil rain, realizing this has now gone on for 5 years of war.
A remarkably brilliant and coordinated strategic attack was successfully carried out today, turning the local oil refinery and shipping terminal into a massive, roaring volcanic eruption of fire. And accordingly, the Russians see this too.
Some Z bloggers have also started to speak out. They have openly started talking about the lack of prospects on the front line. Propagandist Yevhen Holman lost it after a Ukrainian pilot operated an interceptor from a distance of...
We are currently dealing with a vast and challenging distance of over 2,000 kilometers, and it appears that we have run into a series of extremely critical and unexpected problems, which are complicating our progress significantly and need our immediate attention.
More people are outraged now with reasons to complain. They grumble about leadership, weak air defenses, and growing poverty. 5 years into the full-scale war with Ukraine, Russians finally realize it. The economic bottom is near. See, even in the largest regions of China, incomes are higher than in our largest regions.
Well, yeah, it's not worth it. Here, everything just goes down the drain for us.
But the most painful concerns of Russians were listed by former Dom 2 participant, later host, and now blogger Victoria Bonya.
Radish, people are afraid of you. There are big, thick walls between you and us, the ordinary people.
According to Bonya, there are 5 main problems in Russia. These are internet blockages, economic difficulties, as well as flooding, livestock destruction, and oil spills.
In fact, 25 million Russians watched this Bonya because she touched on a very uncomfortable topic, one that everyone is already talking about in their kitchens. Because the economy is declining, many jobs are being cut, businesses are starting to collapse, and the internet...
Then Bonya, through tears, thanked Peskov for his response and distanced herself from the opposition.
I'm not with you, I'm with the people. I'm with the people, and I'm among the people. And
at the same time, the blogger was arguing with the propagandist Solovyov, and
this worn-out slut dares to open his menacing mouth and pollute the air around us.
By the way, even that propagandist Solovyov has slightly changed his rhetoric, and he sighs more and more after every precise strike on Russia. Meanwhile, Bonya's audience grew after her appearance. She now has about 13 million followers. But the blogger from Monaco did not dare to criticize Putin himself.
First of all, there is no war as such at these points in principle. And secondly, in the criticism she broadcasts to her audience, there is no room for criticism of Putin, either personally or of his political regime overall. She criticizes certain officials who do something wrong, who deceive, including the bad boyars who mislead the good Tsar, slipping him the wrong files, the wrong reports.
They inflate him, deceive him.
Interestingly, the discontented burst out after data was published showing Putin's rating had dropped by 10%. And this could have been a Kremlin bait to identify opponents of the regime. I
don't think it's a coincidence that it was the Z supporters who suddenly all started talking, because the Z supporters are also either GRU or the Ministry of Defense. And you know it works like bait. Everyone starts running around, oh, maybe something could happen. They keep identifying more of the discontented, and then they get smacked on the head. This is
some kind of defiance. Or maybe it's a controlled release of steam. So that now, so to speak, they can show that Putin is aware, Putin is responding to the situation. Maybe he'll fire someone for going too far.
But what about Victoria Bonya? Did she speak the truth herself, or was she prompted?
Maybe she really is expressing what she truly thinks. On the other hand, this could be a controlled political project. They really like that sort of thing in Russia. Sobchak 2.0. To show, like, well, who is the opposition here?
An artificial opposition leader is supposed to neutralize protest sentiments in the Russian Federation. But this scheme might not work because times have changed, but the methods haven't. And even the communists have realized this.
If you don't urgently take measures, financial, economic, and others, then in the fall, we'll see a repeat of what happened in 2017.
The changing times are also mentioned by a former admirer and now a hater of Putin, Ilya Remeslo. By the way, he was released from the psychiatric hospital. Rumor has it that influential people from the security services are behind him. So perhaps this is about a conflict within the Russian leadership.
Broadly speaking, there is a divide between the powerful state security services, primarily the FSB on one side, and the influential business wing, which is comprised of the major oligarchs on the other. Officials and businessmen.
But whatever is hiding behind the complaints about the system, whether from Z propagandists or from bloggers, all of this could destabilize Russia. And the strikes from our drones and missiles will help with that. Yevgenia Tereshchenko, We Are Ukraine Marathon United.
Putin definitely won't achieve this to hide. Ukrainian vengeance has hit a key target. The Topson oil refinery is living its last hours. The Russians have paid in full. An oil rain has covered enemy territory. The drones of Ukraine's armored force have opened the gates of hell for the enemy. Epic footage of the destruction and the locals whining are literally blowing up the internet. You can't miss this. All this coming up next.
This is the kind of apocalyptic landscape that people in Tuapse, Krasnodar Krai witnessed last night. Now a column of thick black smoke can be seen for kilometers. Last night, drones launched a significant attack on the Tuapse seaport and oil refinery. There is currently a large-scale fire in the tank farm area. 2 fuel tanks are burning there. At the same time, the Autumn and analysts from the Astra Telegram channel found that the fire had spread to at least 11 separate spots. And this is how the fire looks from the train. The Tuapse oil refinery is one of the largest in Russia. It specializes in the primary processing of oil. And it forms a single production complex with the Rosneft company's marine terminal. The refinery's oil processing capacity is about 12 million tons per year. Its main products are oil distillates, fuel oil, diesel fuel, and aviation gas, most of which is exported. The repeated strike on the oil refinery in Tuapse was confirmed by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
The damage to these facilities reduces the ability to supply fuel to the military units of the Russian aggressor. The defense forces of Ukraine will continue to take measures to reduce the offensive potential of the Russian occupiers and to put an end to the armed aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine.
The Krasnodar Krai prosecutor's office reported, albeit without any details, that damage was inflicted on the transport infrastructure at the port of Tuapse. The attack and the fire were also confirmed by the governor of the region. He also reported 1 person killed and 1 injured, and added that in many houses across the city windows were damaged. The current strike on the Tuapse oil refinery was the second in 4 days. The previous one was on April 16th.
Once more, it's all on fire. They just put it out, lived for 2 days, and it's burning again.
After the previous drone attack, an oil slick of about 10,000 square meters formed. At that time, the authorities reported that they were actively addressing this problem with special equipment. They are removing oil not only from the sea, but also from the mouth of the Tuapse River, where oil products also ended up.
Poor little Tuapse River. Today, it continuously flows, collects, gathering specific materials, while carefully leaving others behind. And
after the recent strike, there was an oil rain in the city. Strange black pellets literally fell from the sky onto the townspeople, and everything around was covered with an oily film. Rospotrebnadzor officially did not find any excess concentration of harmful substances. However, local public pages strongly recommend not opening windows, to clean thoroughly, and to rinse your eyes, nose, and throat. At the same time, classes have already been cancelled in schools and kindergartens, and locals are suffering on camera and wondering why this is happening to them.
It is honestly just a devastating environmental disaster. Seriously.
What am I supposed to do? I don't want to stay here anymore. Look at this, I just can't wash my hands clean no matter what I do. This is totally fucked up. Even with all this soap, why won't it wash off? What kind of Chernobyl is this? It's soaked in. Damn, Emily, let's go wash our paws quickly. One more time. It simply won't wash off, no matter what.
And here's another Russian woman complaining that her dream of living by the sea was shattered by drones.
Everything out at sea has come to a standstill. It's already spreading everywhere. You don't even know if you'll be alive at all or if you'll make it through. Your child. What are we even supposed to do here? Live. But I'm just exhausted from all this.
Successful strikes on Russian oil refineries and ports in recent months have reached a new level. As Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reported the day before, only the Russian oil losses have been recorded. Thanks to our long-range capabilities, the estimated losses amount to at least $2.3 billion. Yaroslava Marushchenko, Vikna STB Marathon Program, United News.
That's all from me for now. What do you think about these events? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button under the video, and stay informed. Most importantly, there's more to come. See you soon.